Okay. So, good morning, guys. This time I will be reading people's comments because I think it is worth reading the people's comments on my last video. A lot of people sent very long and thoughtful responses to my last video. And I kind of want to read them and just see people's, just kind of reflect on people's response and see what we can, where we can begin. Oh, ironically, with this. So I will start with OG Rose. So OG Rose left a comment and he said that, I will read. He says, I'm not, so OG Rose says, I'm not surprised that after Cadell's class, you'd be inspired to produce something this excellent. I thought your insight that we try to reconcile the past with now versus, say, learn to accept our difference and move forward in that difference was excellent. I think it's very true that we're constantly trying to reconcile either ourselves with our past or our present with our futures, but never our present self with a present other. Granted, there is technically no such thing as now, but me here 5 seconds from now is more present than the me in 10 years. I guess we could say that the closer the me we're dealing with, the less we want anything to do with ourselves. Similarly, the closer the other, the more the other proves hard to love. Dostoevsky was right. It's easy to love humanity, but hard to love individuals. Likewise, the further into the past something moves, or further into the future we can project, the easier it is to desire. But if it arrives, how dreadful things are that arrive, how dreadful it is to be challenged, and how necessary. You said it well when you claimed we don't want uh, to deal with helpfulness, only to solve it. It's so nice to solve things, for then we are heroes and no longer have to deal with the things. But dealing with them is not satisfying to the ego, and better yet, usually forces the ego to face itself, and the ego doesn't like that at all. I think you are correct that today the word solitude is too loaded for people to grasp what the great poet was getting at, though I think Rilke meant something aligned with protecting difference, your elaborations on which I loved. For me, I also took Rilke to be saying in a way that we must protect our subject. I actually really like this comment, Daniel, on protecting our subject, which I like because I think this is necessary if we are going to protect the absolute, Hegel versus, he put in quotations, the absolute, and then comma, Hegel, versus give into the temptation of the truth. Where the subject is lost, we have no difference or solitude to protect. All is lost exactly when we think all is gained. I really liked also what you said about the end of your channel, which captured some of my own sentiments regarding YouTube. I love your channel and I'm grateful for your work. Uh, Thank you, Daniel. The line you saying protect our subject, I actually really love. Um, and I think the reason why I still stuck with protect our difference is because for people that um, if I were to say this to somebody, there would be less less room for misunderstandings. Uh, Not that I can totally avoid misunderstandings, but I feel like there is less room for misunderstandings. I really like I said, I really like the word protect our subject. In fact, I would probably use that instead, but it's just because I'm so wary about when I think about just my daily interactions with people that I am afraid that when we say instead protect the subject itself, I'm afraid that this leads to more can lead to a more grand dose of misinterpretation. But I really do like that line, and if it weren't for that fear that I have, I would use protect the subject instead of protect the difference that I had alluded to. And I'm glad that you agree with Rilke. And I actually, when I look back at it too, I really I believe that Rilke was saying the same thing of like protect our subject, protect our difference. Um, and you were correct with the comment about me saying now. There's really no technically there's no such thing as now. Um, of course, I wasn't really trying to catch myself into a philosophy of time. So forgive me. But you caught what I was saying. And actually I liked your word about um, arriving. So maybe if I were to rephrase what I had said about we need to focus on the now, I would say we need to focus on what is arriving or what has arrived already. Um, maybe this is a better way to phrase it. So I do like some of the clarifications and the terms that you brought up in your comment. So arrived and protect your subject. I'll think more about this actually. So Cadell last commented. He said, Javier, this was my favorite video you have made so far. I can see your thinking is on fire and reflecting the core of your intimacy so closely. I loved it and it resonated very deeply to me. Can't wait to hear how this line of questioning develops. And so grateful for you and your channel. Thank you. Thank you, Cadell. Um, I think it's really funny that you said reflecting the core of my intimacy. Uh, that's the part that left me some reflection because I was like, what part of myself did I reveal here? Um, which I think when people watch my videos, it's hard for me to see the intimacy that I am um, expressing. But I know I feel like obviously when it's somebody that's watching me, it's obviously easier to pick up. But of course, I'm always thankful for you, Cadell, and I'm always thankful for you too, Daniel. I meant to actually say that too. I'm thankful for both of your channels, and I feel like the sentiment that I expressed at the end, I feel like that applies definitely to both of you. Um, so that's to rooting for all of us. And now to go on to read Eric Job's comment. He left quite a very lengthy one, but it is definitely worth reading. Eric Job says, good job. I'm happy to hear you are taking the Hegel class. I look forward to many more conversations in the future. You brought up several key ideas in this video and extended one in particular across a range of human relationships, by which I mean the notion of reconciliation in regard to one, cancel culture, and two, the sexual relationship. In the first regard, this is something that I have long believed myself was the key problem with cancel culture, or as you put it, the culture of toxicity, namely a foreclosure of reconciliation. Isn't it connected though with what you bring up later, which is the notion of protecting identities? Um, I know I didn't specifically say protecting identities, but I think I know what you're getting at. So from what I'm understanding of what you're saying is that when I pointed out that we have a culture of toxicity where we try to avoid toxicity and we embrace really the notion not of protecting difference but of protecting identities. In this case, if that is what you're saying, then I definitely um, agree with you, and I would definitely say it is connected. Okay, continuing on to the rest of your comment. Um, you say, is the foreclosure of reconciliation nothing more than a backhanded way of enforcing identity boundaries? Yes, I agree with that. As if to say, aha, I knew this person was not one of us. It's so funny that you bring this up, Jacob. I mean, Jacob. uh, Eric. It's so funny that you bring this up, Eric, because I recently read a short essay by Umberto Eco on inventing the enemy, on this aspect of inventing the enemy. And the whole premise of inventing the enemy is exactly the quotation that you shared with me is like, aha, I knew this person was not one of us. And it's so funny that you bring it up like this. And then, anyways, continuing on, you say, and secondly, with regard to the sexual relationship, the absence of reconciliation is precisely, I think, what Lacan developed nearly 4 years of his seminars to covering the absence or impossibility of the sexual quote rapport. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Rapport. From seminar, oh my god, was it 18? Is that 18? I'm a little blurry. I guess that's 18. Seminar, it's either seminar 18 or 17. I want to say 18. Through 20, he lays out the impossibility of the sexual relation and hence reconciliation. And then after capping it all off with his magisterial seminar 20, he titles his next seminar 21, Les non-dupes errant, the non-duped error. What he means by this must be understood from his previous seminars. One might be tempted, in lieu of the lack of the sexual relation, to consign it to oblivion, to forget about it altogether, and no longer try to make it work. Rather, he says, we must allow ourselves to be duped by something real, by the impossibility itself, such that we build something on the site of impossibility. I do like this a lot, I'll have to admit. And it does sound very Hegelian, funny enough. And I know that Lacan read Hegel. Um, and the reason the reason why this specific line that you're sharing with me, Eric, is so resonating with Hegel is because I just started reading the introduction, and Hegel says something along the lines of, well, when there's error, uh, obviously within the error, there's some truth that lies behind that structure. And I think this Lacanian notion of allowing ourselves to be duped by the impossibility of human relationships, just to allow ourselves to be duped, I think is really so such that we build something. I'll continue on what you're saying. Such that we build something on the site of impossibility. Yes, I agree. I agree with this. And this is something I still want to dive further on. Anyways, continuing, you say, I think Lacan is his most Hegelian at this point. Yes, yeah, I agree. I agree. Though he would not admit it, that's a shame. It is precisely on the site of the identity of something and nothing, of being and nothing, of identity and difference, that we find the absolute. So, with regard to human relation, sexual or otherwise, what we can call by the French rapport, what is impossible about it is precisely where we must begin again. Yes, I am like screaming inside my head right now about all these yeses. As you put it so succinctly, always and again, where the relation fails, we begin again. And this is itself the absolute relation. I really like this, Eric. Thank you. In other words, what makes human relationships possible is precisely their ultimate impossibility. This is the Hegelian move. Yeah. If fully realized, reconciled, perfect human relationship could be had, one that would no longer fail, then we would no longer do the work. Oh, no, you're saying if fully realized, reconciled, perfect human relationship could be had, one that would no longer fail, then we would no longer do the work upon which the relationship itself is constituted. It is failure itself, the impossibility itself, that drives all of our work to actualize the human relationship. Absolutely agree with this. I mean, like I had pointed out before with the culture of toxicity, it is exactly that. It's where we are so afraid to be duped, right? So afraid to be duped by our partners. Just I must know from the moment we meet each other, I must know everything about you. I must know everything. I must know the worst sides about you, so I am not duped. I am not going to be surprised by your personality. There is nothing that's going to surprise me. Even the culture of, like, checking the other's phone, even anything of that such, it is always a paranoia, an utter paranoia of not wanting to be duped, of the fear of failure itself. And yeah, this obviously, now that you bring this up, protecting difference, I would add more now. I would say protecting difference now must include the the provocation of failure, the the uh, the endurance of failure, the inevitability of failure. Because what is it, right? I mean, now when we talk about relationships, we talk about, uh, I think Cadell recently shared with me an article, actually, about how there's an abundance of young men that are single. I would say that actually a part of, an element of this would be the fear of failure, right? And also the fear of failing as a man, probably, as well, right? Because the role is somewhat lost now. It's confused ever since the man as a role has been critiqued. There has been nothing found to replace what has been critiqued. We are just simply in a Nietzschean abyss. um, and people don't really know, but they also don't want to fail. So that's a very, um, it's actually really interesting. It's a in between something and nothing. um, so that's the interesting part. But yeah, we are a culture, uh, afraid to use Lacan's term. We are a culture afraid of being duped. How many times do I've heard people say, "What do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I am stupid? Do you think that you can fool me?" Well, the problem is we fool ourselves. So of course, I am also stupid. You know? uh, but no, really, thank you, Eric. I would like to talk to you more about this. This is great. Um, Now, Cadell posted my post on Facebook, and of course, other people responded. And so there's a long one by, hopefully I'm pronouncing her name correctly. At least I'm assuming it's her. Mads. It might not be her. So I'm sorry. Uh, I'll just say the name, Mads Ellebeck Peterson. My personal experience is that the thing we want to go back slash forward to is the fall, in the sense that love is just the consequence of the falling away. So to stay close, to stay close to the ground, I love that about you guys. That's true courage. In your example of discovering something new about the other, what I see happening is that in the she emphasized the re, in the reaction to that discovery, we reintroduce the part in us that initially fell away. So the idea that now we no longer can see them as we previously saw them is that now, instead of looking through them, we are now looking at them. To me, this is the true test of love, namely, staying falling. That's I know you wrote more, but I really like it. It's a very interesting. Uh, it's almost like if I were to add the Lacanian notion, right, of what Eric had just previously said, of your aspect of staying falling, I would say to stay duped, right? To stay in this dupedness, to always be willing to be duped, right? Because I have fallen in love, so that means I have already accepted that I will continue to experience to be duped. you know, so that I like that. Um, and I will comment on a little bit more after. Okay, so to continue on, you say if nothing can be reconciled, we might need to look for nothing. Difference is the beauty of lack, and to me, reconciliation is the background of which difference appear. Oh, that's nice. I actually like that. Difference. Difference is the background. So it's like a painting. Difference is the background. I'm going to think more about that. Okay. And then you said wanting to reconcile the difference is mistaking the foreground with the background. In real solitude, there is no distance at all. I agree. No difference. And no difference. Okay. So when you say we must protect each other's difference, to me, that would just mean not mistaking the foreground with the background. Okay. Okay, I can see that. The background is the only thing that can be reconciled. That insight might be reached through analysis, but I don't see it can become, she puts in quotes, become real through analysis itself. So you're already alluding to some impossibility. Um, I'm gonna have to think a lot about that. Thank you. That's. But I'm gonna read the rest. Um, it looks to me like what can't get lost must be on a leash. At least being lost is a possibility, though it takes courage, and without courage, it might lead to disaster. I guess it will probably lead to both. I really like following your discoveries, and I'm very much looking forward to follow how it develops. Um, okay. Yeah, I mean, you raise a lot of good points. I'll say Mads. You raised a lot of good points. A lot of things that I'll have to reread your comment actually again because uh, there's there's a lot to think about here, and also because I wasn't typically looking at difference like the way you had proposed it. This aspect of foreground and background distinction. It's not really a metaphor. Well, it's not really a comparison that I am used to thinking in. So this will I'll have to think more about this. But I think everything that you're saying is definitely provocative, and is definitely sparking a lot of reflection about um, some of the qualities of being uh, to stay in this falling as you describe it. And if I were to go back to Eric Job's comment, to stay in this being duped, it takes courage, right? And I think we've all capitalized on the fact that there is a fear, an avoidance as such, uh, that actually it is the fear itself that prevents us from achieving to build anything at all. So that this, I really like this. There is another comment that I will read. Uh, it's actually very separate because the person tagged me and then he commented. And it's by Samir Majubi. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. He says, Javi Rivera, reconciliation is our yearning for capturing our consciousness of our lost infantile life. a pseudo imaginary memory that we think it exists as a whole for real. The life of innocence, pure good feelings that make us relieved. But then comes reality and our twisted libidinal desires. The guilt starts to grow inside us for no reasons. It just flows. Reconciliation after the sensation of guilt is impossible, and we try to start again fresh. It doesn't work. I really like this because now you bring in the aspect of guilt uh, in reconciliation, and this is definitely guilt is definitely a driving factor that I will have to think about and jot down as well, um, because when I hear people talk about their relationships, often there is guilt in there somewhere. Like, oh, I should have done this because then maybe the relationship wouldn't have failed, or you know, uh, something of that sort. Um, there's always an aspect of guilt, like like, oh, I should have gone to the therapy like you said. I should have done better. I should have stopped drinking. I should have just done all the things that I should have done to try to reconcile this relationship, and so on and so on, and save this relationship. So I think you make an interesting point, Samir, on that aspect that once the guilt has taken place, that it is just impossible to go back to that good feeling. I mean, you could almost say uh, the guilt. If I were, I'm gonna become very Heidegger here. The guilt becomes the grounding, right? The guilt now becomes the grounding because this is where we must begin again, right? The guilt is the signification that there is already death. Something has died. Something is dead. Um, but you cannot save the dead. But you can build from the dead. And I think that is where we can start again. Um, that is where we can start again. Because, like you said, reconciliation after the sensation of guilt is impossible, and we try to start again. That's because we try to go back, like you said, we try to go back to that, uh, just the pure goodness of what the relationship was before, and we can never do that. It's impossible, and it's exactly like the aspect of just there's so many instances of people that want forgiveness and so on, but once an event happens, you can't go back. Like it just you can't go back. You can't pretend that it doesn't exist, and just try to. I think a lot of people like to do this blind eye move after an event happens, whether it be in relationships, friendships, anything. They just go, okay, well, like, okay, I this happened, but we're just going to try to make it work, and we'll just toss that aside. It's like, no, whatever happened, whatever that event was, you take that event, you take the rubbles of the previous relationship, because that's what the event leaves you with, and then you try to build something out of that rubble. You don't try to act like it's still there, and I think that that's the problem with some relationships, is that we try to act like it's still there rather than accepting it's not there, and then build from that. And I think that's like a very critical move, because I think like Matt has said, if you don't go for if you realize the impossibility of a situation and then you just drop it, of course there's nothing. Of course there's nothing. You're just reasserting that there's nothing. So I think this is all really good stuff that you guys shared, and I'm really thankful for that. I really like Daniel's notion of the protect the subject, and I really want to use it. I really like it, but again, I still have the same little uh, thing about it is that the subject itself is a loaded term, and this is what I'm trying to prevent from, because I imagine, and I always imagine this when I do my videos. It's like if someone were to come across my videos, I always like to have some aspect of like, if someone had never read philosophy, if someone had never read psychoanalysis, can I say something that is relatable? Can I say something that really um, hinges on the intimacy of their own experiences? And for me, if I were to say protecting their difference, um, that can ring a chord, and they would be like, okay, I think I might understand what this person means when they say protect the subject. When Rilke says protect your solitude, I might understand that when it is phrased in this way. But if I simply say we must protect our subjects, I know you can always clarify, Daniel, which is fine. Uh, but for me, I always want to include the people that uh, sometimes aren't interested in the idea of subject, or the idea of of time, or the idea of anything else, but simply just want to understand uh, why their relationships go wrong. So I'm always thinking about those people sometimes, the people that just want to find an answer, which unfortunately, if you come to my channel for answers, I am sorry that you will not have any. uh, but uh, but that is really where I try to aim at, that this impossibility exists. Anyways, I think that is it. Uh, I talked for, yeah, like 30 minutes, so I think that's good. I thought what everybody said was really insightful. The background foreground distinction, Eric Job's comment about Lacan's the duped being duped. I think the dupe of error, right? It was something, the non-duped error. Yeah. So we must allow ourselves to be duped. I really like that. Um, Samir's concern about guilt and the role that it plays on the impossibility of reconciliation once guilt emerges, once guilt appears on the scene. Um, and just to expand a little further on that, you even see that people have guilted themselves so much that they actually say, "Oh no, I can't be in a relationship. I am not a good person. I cannot possibly be in a relationship because I did such and such." Um, and so once guilt emerges, uh, they some people just completely shut down. And I think Samir definitely alluded to this danger of, if we try to build something out of what guilt already destroyed, rather than taking what is destroyed and building what is, uh, and starting again. So there's that option that I wanted to add in Samir's comment. But other than that, I thought everybody's comments were really insightful, and it gave me a lot to think. And again, I am I am just really thankful for you guys. Really, really, really thankful. Uh, so you guys have given me a lot to think um, about this, about what it means, about when we ask the question, what is a human relationship? Uh, so, okay. Thank you guys. All right. Take care.